Welcome to History with Herodotus, where we delve into the intricacies of the past to uncover the complexities that had shaped our world. Today, we embark on a journey to explore one of the pivotal battles of the 19th century, a clash that would redefine the balance of power in Europe, the Battle of Sadowa, fought on July 3, 1866. This engagement, part of the Austro-Prussian War, was a culmination of years of tension and strategic maneuvering between two of Europe's great powers, the Austrian Empire and the Kingdom of Prussia. The mid-1800s were marked by a series of conflicts that sought to unify various ethnic and linguistic groups under single banners, with Italy and Germany being two notable examples. It was within this context that Prussia, under the leadership of Otto von Bismarck, began to assert its dominance. Bismarck, the cunning and ambitious Prime Minister of Prussia, had a clear vision to unify the disparate German states under Prussian leadership, thereby creating a powerful German empire. However, this ambition was fraught with challenges, not least the opposition from the Austrian Empire, which had long been the dominant power in Central Europe. The Austrian Empire, a multicultural and multilingual entity, feared that a unified Germany would upset the delicate balance of power established by the Congress of Vienna in 1815. The seeds of conflict were sown in the early 1860s, with the Danish-Prussian War over the territories of Schleswig and Holstein serving as a precursor to the larger struggle. The war ended with the Treaty of Vienna in 1864, which granted Prussia control over Schleswig and Austria control over Holstein. However, this temporary resolution did little to alleviate the underlying tensions between the two powers. This act of aggression prompted Austria to mobilize its military, leading to a chain reaction across Europe as alliances were invoked and armies began to march towards their destinies. The Italian kingdom, seeking to capitalize on the situation to gain Venetia from Austrian control, allied itself with Prussia. As summer approached, the armies of Austria and Prussia found themselves on a collision course in Bohemia, now part of the Czech Republic. The Austrians, under the command of Ludwig von Benedek, were arrayed across the landscape, preparing to face the invading Prussian forces led by King William I and his chief of staff, Helmuth von Moltke. It was here, near the small village of Sadowa, or Sadowa in German, that the fate of Europe would be decided. The Prussians had undergone significant military reforms, adopting the Dreyse needlegun, a breech-loading rifle that allowed soldiers to reload lying down, giving them a significant advantage over the Austrian muzzleloaders. Moreover, Moltke's innovative use of railways and telegraphs enabled rapid mobilization and coordination of troops, reflecting the industrial and technological advancements that were beginning to influence warfare. As the armies clashed on July 3, 1866, the landscape around Sadowa transformed into a chaotic tapestry of sound and fury. The Austrian forces, numbering approximately 240,000 soldiers, were positioned in a defensive line stretching across the rolling hills and villages, with their right flank anchored on the Bistsis River. Meanwhile, the Prussians, with about 220,000 troops, advanced in a series of columns, seeking to exploit the weaknesses in the Austrian deployment. The battle commenced at around 7,000 a.m., as Prussian artillery began pounding Austrian positions, softening them up for the impending infantry assault. The Austrians, however, were not idle, and their own guns responded with a fierce barrage, causing significant casualties among the advancing Prussians. As the morning wore on, the fighting intensified, with both sides trading volleys of rifle fire and cannonballs. One of the defining moments of the battle occurred around 10:00 a.m., when the Prussian Guard Corps, led by General Adolf von Bohnen, launched a daring assault against the Austrian positions near the village of Chlum. The Guards, with their distinctive bear fur hats, advanced in tight formation, braving withering fire from the Austrian lines. Despite suffering heavy losses, they managed to break through the Austrian defenses, creating a breach that would ultimately prove decisive. As the Prussians poured through the gap, the Austrian line began to waver, and by mid-morning, their center was on the verge of collapse. The situation was aptly described by an Austrian officer, who later recalled, "The Prussian artillery fire was so intense that it seemed as if the very earth itself was being torn apart." The Austrians, however, refused to yield, and their troops fought valiantly, inflicting significant casualties on the Prussians. Despite being outnumbered, the Prussians held the initiative, thanks in large part to their superior firepower and Moltke's clever tactics. As the battle raged on, the Prussians continued to push forward, gradually encircling the Austrian forces and cutting off their lines of retreat. By early afternoon, the Austrians were in full retreat, abandoning their guns and equipment as they fled in disarray. The pursuit was relentless, with Prussian cavalry units harrying the fleeing Austrians, cutting down stragglers and capturing prisoners by the hundreds. As the sun began to set on July 3rd, the battlefield around Sadowa lay strewn with the dead and wounded, a grim testament to the ferocity of the fighting. The Prussians had emerged victorious, but at a steep cost, over 9,000 casualties, including many high-ranking officers. The Austrians, meanwhile, had suffered even more severely, losing an estimated 19,000 men, as well as vast quantities of equipment and supplies. As the dust settled on the battlefield, the Prussians began to consolidate their gains, tending to the wounded and burying the dead. The Austrian army, meanwhile, was in full retreat, its morale shattered by the crushing defeat. The road to Vienna lay open, and it seemed likely that the Prussians would soon be at the gates of the Austrian capital. However, King William of Prussia and his chief of staff, Moltke, chose not to pursue the Austrians, opting instead to negotiate a peace treaty. The Treaty of Prague, signed on August 23, 1866, officially ended the Austro-Prussian War, with Austria ceding control of the German Confederation to Prussia. The treaty marked a significant shift in the balance of power in Europe, establishing Prussia as the dominant force in Germany and paving the way for the eventual unification of the country under Otto von Bismarck's leadership. As the renowned historian Gordon Craig observed, the Battle of Königgrätz, or Sadowa, was the most important battle of the 19th century, for it marked the beginning of a new era in European history. In the years that followed, the Battle of Sadowa would be remembered as a turning point in the history of warfare, marking the advent of modern industrialized conflict. The use of railways, telegraphs, and breech-loading rifles had given the Prussians a decisive advantage on the battlefield, demonstrating the importance of technological innovation in military affairs. As one contemporary observer noted, the Battle of Sadowa was a victory not just of arms, but of organization, discipline, and modernity. Today, the Battle of Sadowa is commemorated as a pivotal moment in European history, a testament to the power of strategic thinking and technological innovation on the battlefield. The site of the battle has been preserved as a museum and memorial, attracting visitors from around the world who come to pay their respects to the soldiers who fought and died there. The Battle of Sadowa may seem like a distant event, a relic of a bygone era, but its impact continues to be felt today. The unification of Germany, facilitated in part by the Prussian victory at Sadowa, set in motion a chain of events that would ultimately lead to 2 world wars and the redrawing of the European map. As we strive to understand the complexities of the modern world, it is essential that we remember the lessons of history, including the importance of diplomacy, strategic thinking, and the human cost of war. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, remember that to understand the present, we must first understand the past.